Hi, my name is Sarah from the American Independence Museum in Exeter, New Hampshire. For this month's Revolutionary Storytime, we are going to read Red, White, and Blue, the Story of the American Flag, written by John Herman, illustrated by Robin Roraback. So join me as we read this story and learn a bit more about the history of the flag, what it means, and why it's so important. We all know the American flag. Its bright colors fly at baseball games. It flies at 4th of July parades. We even see it on clothes. Our flag has lots of nicknames, like Old Glory and the Red, White, and Blue. Sometimes it's called the Stars and Stripes. But where did our flag come from? Who decided what it would look like? The truth that no one knows for sure. Back in the 1700s, America didn't have a flag. It didn't need one. It wasn't even a country yet. It was just 13 colonies. The colonies belonged to England. The English flag flew in our towns from New Hampshire to Georgia. But as time went on, the 13 colonies didn't want to belong to England anymore. Americans decided to fight for their freedom. A war began, and it was the American Revolution. Now a new flag was needed, an American flag. Who made our first flag? Some people say it was a woman named Betsy Ross. Maybe you've heard of her. Betsy Ross owned a sewing shop in Philadelphia. She was famous for her sewing. The story is that one day a general came to see her, and that general was George Washington. He was the head of the American Army. General Washington wanted a new flag. It would make his soldiers feel like a real army fighting for a real country. He wanted Betsy Ross to make this flag. He drew a picture of what he wanted. Betsy Ross made some changes, then she showed the picture to General Washington. He liked it. Betsy Ross sewed the flag, and that was the very first Stars and Stripes. That is the story, and it's a good one. But is it true? Betsy Ross's grandson said it was. He said that Betsy told him the story when he was a little boy, and she was an old woman of 84. But there's no proof of this story. So what do we know for sure? We know that during the Revolution, the colonists used lots of different flags. But once the colonies became the United States of America, the country needed one flag, the same flag for everybody. So on June 14, 1777, a decision was made. The flag was going to have 13 red and white stripes. The flag was also going to have 13 white stars on a blue background, one for each of the 13 colonies. Now the United States had a flag. Congress had picked the colors and the stars and the stripes. But Congress did not say where the Stars and Stripes had to go, so the flag still did not always look the same. People could put them any way they liked. Sometimes the stripes were up and down like this. Sometimes the stars were in a circle like this. But nobody minded. Up and down, side to side, the Stars and Stripes still stood for the United States. Over the years, the flag became more and more important to people. In 1812, the United States was at war with England again. British soldiers came to America. They sailed up our rivers. They marched down our streets. They even burned down the White House, the home of the president. On the night of September 13, 1814, the British soldiers bombed a fort in Maryland. All that night, a man watched the fighting. His name was Francis Scott Key. He was afraid. What if the American soldiers in the fort gave up? But in the early morning light, he saw the Stars and Stripes. It was still flying above the fort, and he knew American soldiers had won the battle. Key felt very proud. He wrote a poem about the flag on the fort. The poem was "The Star-Spangled Banner." Later, the poem was put to music. This song about our flag became a song for our whole country. The flag that Francis Scott Key saw had 15 stripes and 15 stars. Why? Because by then, there were 2 more states, Vermont and Kentucky. Our country was getting bigger. People were heading out west. In time, more places were going to want to be states. Soon, there would be too many stripes to fit on the flag. Congress had to do something. So, in 1818, this is what they decided. The flag would go back to 13 red and white stripes. And in the blue box would be 1 white star for each state. Every time there was a new state, a new star would be added. At last, the Stars and Stripes looked the same everywhere it flew, and Americans were proud of their flag. They took the flag with them as they moved west. The flag crossed the Mississippi River. and the great green grassy plains and the Rocky Mountains. It made it all the way to California. More and more states were added to the country, and more stars were added to the flag. By 1837, there were 26 stars on the flag. By 1850, there were 31. One country, one flag. But then, in 1861, something happened. Our country split into two. 11 states in the South broke away from the United States of America. They started their own country. It was called the Confederate States of America. Abraham Lincoln was President of the United States. He said that all states had to stay together. War broke out, the Civil War, and it was a very sad time in the history of our country. The 11 southern states stopped flying the stars and stripes. They had their own flag. In the North, some people wanted 11 stars taken off the stars and stripes, but Abraham Lincoln would not do that. He said the states would get back together. He was right. The Civil War ended in 1865. The North won, and the United States was one country under one flag again. On June 14, 1877, the flag had a birthday, a big one. It was 100 years old. All across the country, people had picnics and parties and parades. June 14th became a holiday, Flag Day. Today, our flag has 50 stars for the 50 United States of America. Some flags are huge. One weighs 500 pounds. It is flown every 4th of July from the George Washington Bridge. The American flag flies in towns and cities from coast to coast. And that's not all. In 1969, 2 American astronauts were the first people ever to land on the moon. The astronauts took lots of moon rocks back to Earth. They also left something on the moon, the stars and stripes. And do you know what? Our flag is still flying there.